All right, we are live. Welcome back to a new series of Hold Flip Dump. My name is Robin.
Hello, my name is Alex.
And we are your hosts. We are going to be reviewing three tokens, and we're going to choose one to hold, one to flip, and one to dump. And at the end of it, you can do the same if you like, and let us know which ones you chose. We're working on getting an AI agent to do this with us. So maybe next week we'll have a AI participant as well, giving their feedback, their opinion on which ones we should flip and dump.
Yeah.
So what's in the
Excellent.
news? Well, briefly, I'll just go over the overall market cap. The last week, it's been red. We're down to what's that? 2.4 trillion. Yeah. So as of the last couple of weeks now, we're overall down. The bull run has well and truly cooled, but we're still up on the year, and there's still positive sentiment overall, I'd say. So this week we've picked three tokens that are performing better than most, even though the whole market is overall down. So yeah, let's go through the news. I think that you've got a few news articles you want to share, Alex.
I do, yes. Just to comment on the drop of the market cap tokens. Yes, it's down, but the Bitcoin halving is coming up. So there's some very important news for everybody to keep in their calendars if you are in the space. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Generally, content online has been quite contradictory. Some say there's going to be the catalyst for Bitcoin to go up. If Bitcoin goes up, there will be liquidity that is, just flows into other coins and tokens. Others are saying that not much is going to happen immediately after the halving. So, it'll just be good to keep an eye out and make sure you do your own research. Always important to do that. So apart from that, on the news, a lot of things are happening. I'm going to start with NFTs. So is this the end of NFTs now? So important, what we can see here on the news is that Bored Apes, a very famous NFT collection, is down 90%. So quite serious, because it hasn't really recovered. As you can see on this graph, it's let me see where it says. Here we go. So it's within the same levels as May 22. I want to say no. I need to find the exact data, but in any case, it's just down constantly. So not great news. Yes, there's been a couple of purchases that have been quite interesting, but it's just not recovering. Now, what is interesting is, I think it was last week, was NFT NYC. NFT NYC is known as, one of those NFT events that are that landmark, right? That's super important. But the reports are that it ain't doing well at all. So the report is that it was very quiet. People are just simply not attending. According to this article, loads of articles as well, social media content saying exactly the same thing we've got here. So the halls were quiet. There were very thin crowds and almost non-existent crowds. So it is interesting to hear directly from the let me see if I find the quote from one of the founders of NFT NYC saying that there's no, like, the bubble, that speculation has passed. There we go. So that speculative burn has passed. So this is a quote directly from the co-founder of NFT NYC. Now, interesting, because, NFTs were one of those things that drove a lot of adoption. They were on the news constantly. You had loads of celebrities taking part in NFT speculation, and it's what brought a lot of capital to the crypto market. So I'm wondering if this is just simply the end of that adoption curve, and NFTs are just not going to come back, and we need to start looking at other sectors in the crypto market. So, Robin, what do you think about all this NFT news? What's your view?
I'm hoping that this is a bottom signal. I mean, it obviously is a bottom. It's a bad signal anyway. But what are we seeing? We've seen a slight pickup when the meme coin phase started a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago maybe, and people were thinking that NFTs would follow, which has happened in the past. There's been meme coin crazes that have been followed by NFT crazes, and a lot of meme coins are associated with NFT projects. And I think a couple of weeks ago we saw that there was a record sale on Dog with Hats NFT, and so there is a bit of cross pollination between the NFT world and the meme coin world. So if we continue to see meme coins dominating the markets, then my current thesis is that that liquidity will flow into the NFT market. But I think we're yet to see really which chain or which narrative is going to take off for NFTs. There was some base activity recently as well. I've seen that there were based apes and a couple of other base NFT projects have been trading above others, but still overall the NFT market is down and it's continuing to drop by the looks of it. But if you want to buy a Bored Ape, discount prices. If I had a spare 30 grand, I might buy one, but sadly I don't.
Well, so yeah, let's see what happens in the next few weeks. Obviously, there is capital flowing into low market cap tokens and, of course, meme coins, like you mentioned. So yeah, let's see what happens in the next few weeks. Now back to Bitcoin. So we know what happened in the past few days. 400 million worth of crypto liquidations. So I think that a lot of people were panicking during the weekend. There was a major drop. Day traders got liquidated. So yeah, quite serious. Look at that chart. It's a lot more dramatic than it was. If you've been in the crypto market, look at that. So drop 5%. That's okay. You know, like that's what you get. If this was the stocks market, it would probably be the end of the modern traders market. But right now in crypto, yes, there was 400 million worth of losses, but it's not the end of it. There's still some support within these levels anyways. Now, what's really interesting is you see all of these liquidations, price going down, and then the news that you get on Monday is Hong Kong approves the first Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. So Ethereum ETF is one thing. The spot ETF is something that keeps coming in and out of the news. That in the US might get approved, might not get approved. We actually covered this previously. But interesting because, you know, maybe a lot of these traders or ETF providers got a major discount during the weekend. So wondering if there was a bit of a play from some big crypto whales, you know, trying to get a discount for these ETFs, or simply, you know, just major coincidence. But after this news on Monday, price started recovering a bit. But, you know, volatility is playing up. So, Robin, what do you think?
I mean, this has got to be good news for Ethereum maxis and those that are hoping that the same ETF will be approved in the US. There's a lot of speculation that it won't be this year in the US and that it's going to be delayed. And it seems that the SEC is not. People were hoping that it was just going to be a natural extension of the Bitcoin ETF, right? There was going to be the same process for the Ethereum one, but what we're actually seeing is that maybe that's not the case, and there's a bit more to it than that. people like the last prediction I saw was something like 30-40% odds on the Ethereum ETF being approved in the US this year. But if it's approved in Hong Kong, then what? Like that sets a precedent. Maybe that will help regulators in the US see a path towards an Ethereum ETF. It seems like most people agree it will happen, but the question is when. So we'll keep an eye on that one and keep you updated.
Yes, and with those crypto gains and the conversation's always, the question always in crypto is when Lambo, but in this case is when football team. So here we go. So if you're in the UK, you would call, or Europe, you would call this football. In the US, in this particular news, they decided to call it soccer club. In any case, you've got the Winklevoss twins, very famous in the tech world, and particularly, of course, in crypto. They've just decided to co-own the real Bedford Football Club. I didn't know Bedford was in the Premier League. That's one. So that tells you how much I know about the Football Premier League these days. But really interesting because they didn't spend that much money. You know, they spent $4.5 million. Yes, worth of Bitcoin, but you know, these guys have a lot more in their wallets than that. So yeah, very interesting because this reminds me big time, reminds me of what Ryan Reynolds did with the Welsh club Wrexham a while back. Now, this particular article says, you know, revenue jumps 75% and losses also go up. Fair enough, you know, just a much bigger operation. So just to put that in perspective, it was a very small team, and it was reported that the revenue was ranging between 2 million and 4 million. Yeah, just before Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. I don't know who this guy is, but you know, they're just friends. They bought the football club and they went up to 13 million in revenue. They also got up to 100% revenue in terms of merchandise sales. Plus, they went up a league. I'm not sure which league they're up, but they went up and then they got an additional 1.7 million plus sponsorship deals plus a Netflix special. So all of that just generated an incredible growth in terms of revenue. So it looks like this was a very good precedent for any other wealthy individual to go invest in an English football league, very small teams, and then just grow them up. So quite interesting to see that now we've got another set of millionaires. Again, another couple. In this case, we had Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. I'm so sorry, Rob. I'll learn your name. But yeah, another wealthy pair of individuals. Look at that, buying a football team. So, Robin,
is it a Bitcoin team because it's owned by the Winklevoss teams, the Winklevoss twins, or is there any kind of crypto element beyond that? I wonder, because there's been a succession of fan-owned football clubs, and I think there is also a, what's it called, WAGMI United. I think they sold a load of they sold a load of NFTs. It must have been 2 years ago now, and if you owned the NFT, you owned a voting rights, and they were trying to set up a not a DAO, but an organization that's like a decentralized organization that I guess would allow you to have some kind of influence on the team. As with any of these projects, there was another one I think called My Soccer Club or something, and that was about 10 years ago. And they sold shares to investors, and then the investors would, in theory, have some kind of input on the team's performance, and they could like vote on team sheets, stuff like that. Every time this has been attempted, it has failed, and I think, yeah, if that's this, if it is a Bitcoin or some kind of DAO football club, I think it will fail. If it's just a load of rich Bitcoin investors buying a football club, it will probably do well, to be honest, because What is it? Bedford's Real Bedford FC. They're definitely not in the Premier League. I don't know what league they're in. Probably the conference or something like that. But good luck to them. What will happen is they'll buy a load of players that are way too good for the league, and everyone else in the league will get really annoyed because they're doing really well and there's just no one can beat them. Because that's what happened with Wrexham. They brought in like some ex-Premier League players and that would be paid like 5 times what anyone else in the league was being paid. And they did not make many friends in that league, but now they've been promoted. So yeah, when Wrexham Lamborghini, this is it's going to be interesting to watch. I'd rather the Winklevoss twins than another Saudi investment fund, but we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, what's interesting is we need to remember that one of the reasons why FTX became just so popular is on the sports sponsorships. They were everywhere. They sponsored, they had the naming rights on a stadium in Miami. They were in every music festival, Formula One, football competitions, MMA, you name it. They were everywhere. So I'm wondering if this is just a move for Gemini as well to start getting a bit more popularity. I'm not sure, but just it could just simply be a marketing stunt. I'm sure that these guys spend more than $4 million on marketing. So it could just be, we've got some spare cash. Let's just buy a small football team and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the
There's
news.
also
That's the highlights.
There's also an element of soft power that can be leveraged when you own a football club, because you can channel certain things, as the Saudis have found out, and other Gulf states, that you can get a lot of favors, let's just say, if you own a football club, and you can influence people in other ways. So maybe it's a power play by the Winklevoss twins. We'll see.
Maybe. Well, let's see. But yeah, that's the highlights for this week. More on this next week. Let's look at some of those tokens.
I can't remember. Did we talk about this one last week? I just want to bring this up briefly. The ordinals issue with the sniping. I don't think we did talk about this last week. But just quickly, if we didn't, there was an issue facing ordinals where somebody bid on an NFT, an ordinals NFT, and because of the blockchain, because of the Bitcoin blocks taking 15 minutes to get mined, that meant that somebody was able to snipe that and buy it before the transaction went through. So this user thought they bought the NFT, thought they bought the ordinal, but they got sniped and somebody else got it. I think they then sold it to the original buyer. So the original buyer paid a little bit higher for it, but they lost out to the tune of $2,500, which goes to show that you've got to be careful when you're buying an ordinal, because there's always the risk that you will get hipped to the post.
Yeah, quite important to bear that in mind, and maybe an opportunity for the likes of Magic Eden to build processes to protect traders, because then otherwise people will just not want to trade anywhere. They're going to be getting their wallets drained. So yeah, hopefully, I mean, Magic Eden has been very good at innovating. They've been very fast at
getting
deploying new solutions and getting things done. So yeah, you're getting noise.
Yeah, I just got a lot of noise from potentially from your microphone, but it seems to have stopped. So let's continue.
Okay. But yeah, so hopefully Magic Eden will find a solution for this.
Okay, so let's move on to the whole flip dump decision. We have picked 3 trending tokens. The first of which is Pax Gold, which is, I think you said, Alex, you have encountered in the past.
Yep. Yeah, tokenized gold. Very interesting project. I did get involved with involved. I did buy some Pax Gold very early on when you had to create an account on their website to be able to buy it. It's a bit of a long process. You had to do KYC directly with Pax to be able to get this. But yeah, this was a few years ago. So yeah, quite interesting to go through it and see what's happening. What else have we
So
got?
is it like a stable coin? Is it tracking the price of gold, or is this a independence of the gold value?
No, I believe they're tracking the value of gold and what you get. So they hold physical gold on your behalf, and they've got loads of information on the website as to how they do this, and then they just issue tokens based on the holdings. So like a RWA. So they were very early on in terms of tokenizing real world assets. In this case, it was gold. So, and they're very unique. I don't believe there's anybody else that has tokenized gold. There's a lot of projects on property, on cars, sneakers, Pokemon cards, but these guys are the only ones doing tokenized gold. So yeah, really interesting to go through it and even learn a bit more about it.
Yeah, definitely. The second token is Celestia, which we've spoken about before, and recently it was being, I guess I'm not sure why this one is being trending, or it has been going up in the last day or so, but overall in the last 3 months it's down with a high of about $20. It's gone down to around $10. Celestia, for anyone that doesn't know, is a layer one, like modular blockchain, I guess you'd call it, which kind of provides the basis for a blockchain for other people to build on top of. They are subscribers to the idea that there will be millions of blockchains, and in a similar kind of way to Ethereum, I think Celestia kind of envisages a future where you can have your blockchain for your own company, for your own project, and you just rely on them for securing the network. But Celestia is much more flexible than Ethereum. Ethereum has some things that they insist on you using. They basically ask you to trust the Ethereum way. You have to do it the Ethereum way. But Celestia is much more open, and you can build pretty much anything on Celestia. So it's an interesting project, but obviously nowhere near the volume or adoption as Ethereum's got. And then number 3 is Mantra, which the token price is OM. So I'm getting some positive vibes from this token, and the 3-month price action is up considerably. So it goes up from around 7 cents at the beginning of the year, and now we're looking at 80 cents. So a big increase on Mantra. But I know nothing about this token, so it's going to be a process of learning a little bit about it before we can start. Let's see what CoinGecko says. Mantra is a security-first RWA layer 1 blockchain capable of adherence and enforcement of real-world regulatory requirements. Built for institutions and developers, Mantra offers a permissionless blockchain for permissioned applications. Key features, it's Cosmos SDK, interesting. Secured via a sovereign proof-of-stake validator set, scalable up to 10K transactions per second, built-in modules, SDKs, and APIs, improved user experience to onboard non-native users and institutions to Web3. Okay, so it's a layer 1. Let's see, how old is this? I have not come across this at all. Wow, 2020. Okay, so it's not new, but it's recently been doing well. Yeah, completely missed this. Any news on CoinGecko? Let's just see. Mantra launches new incubation program for blockchain innovations. Interesting.
Okay.
So I'm guessing because of Dubai Token 2027, 2024, 2027?
2049. Well, you were close.
2049. One of them. Yeah, maybe it looks like they've launched something which has been popular with investors. So it'll be interesting to find out what that is. Do you want to do some analysis, Alex, or do you want to look at one of these in particular?
Yeah, well, I'm going through Mantra just to understand what's special about it. In terms of technical analysis, we can get to that in a moment. What's interesting is that there's been a huge growth from about 2 cents all the way up to 80 cents. So a 40x in the space of 3 months. So not bad. It does look like a token that was almost dead for the best part of 2022 to 2023. So completely flat. So we can get to that technical analysis in just a moment. I think that a lot of this is not going to be based on trading activity alone, but there's something that has incentivized this huge increase. So I'd love to understand a bit more about what's special about Mantra first. So it looks like, yes, so they're the first RWA layer 1 blockchain capable of adherence and enforcement of real-world regulatory requirements. What does that mean?
That's a very good question. They've got a guard module, leverage verified on-chain users and dApps powered by. One of the big problems, of course, with real-world assets is verifying that the asset that you've got stored in a vault somewhere is actually the asset that you're trading on the blockchain, because there could be a disconnect there. And as soon as you have a lack of trust in the validation or the verification of those assets, the whole thing falls apart. So it'd be interesting to understand more about how this works. We've covered RWA's real-world assets before. We've talked about, obviously, stablecoins and other securities that are starting to appear on chain, and gold, obviously, we spoke about just now, and we'll look into this as more. But I've not come across a blockchain focused on real-world assets before. So it's interesting to see that they're going down that route.
Okay, they do mention several times that they're compliant with, they're compliant with regulations. They enhance trust, being auditability. I hate that word, auditability, and data sharing abilities. So, I mean, I'm guessing in terms of data, all blockchains allow that. In terms of trust, as long as they're fairly decentralized, and again, they've got the public information transactions, more of the same. But I guess that the audit part is important, especially if what you're doing is tokenizing assets. How are you making your holdings or the assets that your token is representing? You're making that available to people to make sure that they're verified and real.
Yeah. KYC, AML compliant. I guess my question would be, why do we need a blockchain for this when historically tokens and NFTs and ERC20 tokens are functional? What is the benefit of doing this through Mantra as opposed to a ERC20 on Ethereum, for example? So I don't know if we're going to be able to answer that question, but that's one that I would want to know before I invested in Mantra.
Okay.
Let's see if we can find any more information on this news article that we saw. Mantra launches new incubation program.
Yeah, but that doesn't really tell us why there's such huge growth in the price action.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the key thing that I'm trying to find. Because yes, we can do technical analysis, but there's not a lot of value we're going to get on this short-term price action. Yes, there was a huge increase in 2021, like previous bull market, and then it's been like flat, like dead since about, let's say, end of May 22. So it just looks very, I don't know, interesting. Like there's something, it's not traders alone. So something has propelled this price action to reach all-time highs. So
I
I'm not
wonder
sure
if
if you
they
see
pivoted.
more projects. Yep.
I wonder if they pivoted from something else and went to RWAs, because RWAs have been around, of course, for a long time, but they've really picked up in the last year or so. So maybe they previously had a different business model, or they've potentially got funding if they've got a new incubation program. Maybe they've received some funding. Let's see.
There's some information here about a Mantra airdrop. So I'm wondering if that's what's happened. Yes, there's the incubator, fair enough. But yeah, something has propelled this growth, and that's what I'd like to find out. I'm not sure if they've announced, new real world assets available on Mantra.
So
That's a key thing that I'd like to know.
this article, Mantra launches new incubation program for blockchain innovations. And if we scroll down, it says the program, which offers each project a $100,000 seed investment funded by Mantra's founder and CEO, John Patrick Mullin, shows a tangible commitment to fostering success. With the hands-on guidance of experienced project managers, project teams will explore invaluable networking opportunities and gain access to investor pool, laying a solid foundation for future growth. So they're clearly incentivizing RWA projects to launch on Mantra, which seems to have been received well by the market. It'd be interesting to know which projects are on this program, if any, and what other incentives other than financial there are to launch on Mantra. But if we see some projects starting, some new RWA projects starting to emerge on Mantra, then that could propel others to join them, and we could see a blockchain that has all of the RWA volume. So it's an interesting model for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I guess it just requires a bit more time to get to understand that price action. Something is working for them, so it could be essentially, this incubator has led to some, I don't know, big asset providers or asset managers. Sorry, big asset managers. Touching the microphone. Sorry about that. Just deploy their capital into this blockchain. I'm not entirely sure. There's not a lot of information that I can find on Twitter. It's Dubai Blockchain Week. If you're new to the blockchain space, it's a very big week. Some of the biggest conferences and events are happening in Dubai this week. So, of course, a lot of the content in every single project's Twitter is going to be about Token 2049 or the overall blockchain week and all the events that are happening. So yeah, I guess that it does require a bit more research, but yeah, we've been big fans in this channel of real world asset tokenization, and if these guys are just simply focusing and building a full blockchain that's specialized on this, then maybe there's just more people using it or more people finding it, and that's what's pushing the price up.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that they've seemed to have got investment as well. That's obviously part of the reason. This Twitter post says Mantra Chain has unveiled its latest incubation program at the Dubai World Trade Center, which we've just read about, following a successful 11 million funding round spearheaded by Shahrukh Partners. So they've got some VC funding, obviously, and that has potentially influenced the price action. And they're growing by the looks of it. They've got some backing, which seems to be driving this adoption, this latest price rise. Should we look at the Celestia price a little bit? So
yeah, from one Cosmos project to another, let's do it.
Yeah. So Celestia, October last year. Wow, it's lots newer than I thought. And so it's gone up from, well, back in the start, it was $2.30, now sitting around the $10 mark, but it was a peak of $20 back in February this year. But overall, positive price action. The problem, I think, the downside to any layer one is adoption, and especially when you're competing with the likes of Ethereum, that's going to be a challenge. But it's definitely got some promising tech behind it and a very smart team. And I think that we'll see more projects who want that kind of flexibility going over to Celestia. They're also doing a little bit of interoperability. They're allowing communication cross-chain and data availability and that kind of thing. So I think it's a strong infrastructure investment for me, Celestia, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. Obviously, do your own research, but I don't own any Celestia, but I certainly may in the future. It's definitely something that I like the sound of. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Celestia is a layer one. I do know that they're built on the Cosmos ecosystem. So they're leveraging the Cosmos technology. And I'm not sure if you remember, but when we first reviewed this token, it was one of those very rare airdropped tokens that were going up, meaning that holders were not selling, they were either holding or they were buying even more. So it was a very rare case, because normally after an airdrop, people just go, let's cash out on our gains and move on to something else. So it was a very interesting project, still is, of course. And yeah, so I think that in this case, you will probably understand the value of it way more than I do. In any case, says that Celestia scales by rethinking blockchain architecture. And it's a minimal blockchain that decouples execution from consensus. Now, that's why this goes over my head, because I'm not entirely sure what the benefit is to decouple execution from consensus. And since there's no execution or settlement constraints, developers are free to define their own execution and settlement environments. Again, Robin, if you've got any comments to explain this, that'll be very useful.
So I think consensus is when multiple people will agree on the order of things happening. So whenever somebody mints an NFT or exchanges some tokens, it's a series of events that happened on a blockchain, and everyone that is part of the network has to agree on the order of those events, because that's very important. And Ethereum does this on the layer one. They have a series of validators and nodes across the network who all come to a consensus, and they say, this is what happened in the last block, and we all agree this is what happened, and we can make decisions, and the future blocks can be based on this consensus. But Ethereum consensus is very expensive. And if you want to, even layer twos or roll-ups, when they use the Ethereum consensus model, it costs a lot of money for relatively. So Celestia, I think that they are trying to make a more modular, simple consensus mechanism that allows people to have a bit more control over the rest of the stack or the rest of the technology. And yeah, maybe I'm wrong in saying that Celestia is technically a layer one. I don't know what they would call. I guess they're more of a framework than a layer one, maybe. But let's see. So yeah, they basically want to make it a platform for building on top of. So they're all about providing a minimal service that is useful to people building on a blockchain that want control over block space and the execution of certain smart contracts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like how it's explained here, because it says that big blockchains, they lack flexibility for innovation and scalability, and instead modular blockchains by introducing this notion of decoupling, blah, 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 they allow greater scalability without the loss of security or decentralization. They enable control over the rules of an application through voting, and developers can make alterations to the tech stack. So what it sounds like is that it's very scalable. So, you spoke about Ethereum. Ethereum is more scalable by building layers on top, or that's what I understand. I'm guessing in this case, they make it so that it's modular. So you DIY your own custom blockchain for whatever you need. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting project. We reviewed this, so we can leave a link for more details, but just for the purpose of time, we can move on and go into a real world asset tokenization project, which is Pax Gold.
Yeah, Pax Gold. Everyone calls Bitcoin the gold crypto standard, but there is actually gold within the crypto sphere as well. So if you want to invest in a scarce resource that is not digital, you can do so on the blockchain. So I'm guessing this Pax used to be much more closed off, require KYC, and since then they've opened up and they're now just a ERC20. But do you know which blockchain they're on? Looks like
I
Ethereum.
can't remember. It looks like Ethereum. Yes.
Yeah.
Although I can see here they also have deployed on Binance Smart Chain and on Solana. But yeah, in the early days, the price of Pax Gold is directly correlated with the price of gold itself. So essentially, since they launched in 2019, the token price has consistently gone up following the gold price. And if you had bought Pax Gold back in 2019, you would be up about 2x. So the movement is a lot slower than what we used to in the cryptosphere, essentially because it's tokenizing the price of gold, and gold is more about the stability. I cannot say the word stable.
Stability.
But anyway, so
Oh,
yeah,
stable.
thank you. So it's been a long day. But anyways, there we go. So, Pax Gold is just one of those assets that, instead of just having stable coins, you can just have it in Pax Gold and, just see it grow slowly, but, it will grow over just having stable coins instead.
Yeah, I guess. And with the tensions in the Middle East and the risk of war breaking out further or escalation, people are starting to move their funds into more safe assets, and gold is one of those. So as the price of gold goes up, the interest in owning gold on the blockchain also does. This article from Cryptopolitan: geopolitical tensions prompt record high for Pax Gold as Bitcoin faces sharp decline. So people potentially selling Bitcoin to invest in gold, or even selling stocks, bonds, other things that might be affected by geopolitical tensions, and that's good for Pax.
Okay. I would say that I just think that this is a very, very interesting project, because they've been around for a long time, and they were, always from the start, they were super transparent. They now have something they didn't used to have, I believe, which is this gold allocation lookup. So essentially, for transparency purposes, they do say that every single token is backed by an ounce of gold. So an ounce of a token equals 1 ounce of gold. And then you can get exactly the the serial number and information about the gold that you're holding just by entering your Ethereum wallet address. Let's say that I've got 1 Pax Gold token, then that means I've got 1 ounce, and then I will find out exactly the serial number and essentially my ownership of gold in that case, without having to get the gold transferred from whatever else in the world over to the UK. I don't need to worry about that. These guys are securely hosting that, and all I need to worry about is just seeing my tokens go up.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. As with any real world asset, you have to trust that the company that's storing it for you is reputable, and also that they have enough reserves that if there's a run on the Pax Gold token, then they can back that. I don't know what the Pax reserves are like, but I know that other tokens like stable coins, there'll be obviously problems in the past where there's been a run on the stable coin and it turns out their reserves don't cover the cost of what's there, and people are trying to cash in and there's nothing left. So you have to look really into like the reserves and whether they've been audited and how trustworthy these companies are. I don't know enough about Pax to offer an opinion on that, but it's just a word of warning. As with any real world asset, there is an element of trust that is not decentralized and not trustless in a blockchain kind of way, because ultimately somewhere there is an ounce of gold and you have to trust that that exists.
What's interesting is that they call themselves, so Paxos as a company, a blockchain infrastructure for enterprises. So essentially allowing global leaders in financial services to use Paxos platform and APIs to build their blockchain and digital asset solutions. So what it sounds like is that they are a direct competitor of Mantra, right? Because Mantra is a real world asset tokenization blockchain, but Paxos is the infrastructure. And they've been around probably for as long as Mantra. Let me see some Mantra's price history is since, what is this? Yeah, 2020, so the year after Paxos. And Paxos have a big reputation because they've been tokenizing gold. They're heavily regulated, and they had all the KYC processes, and they were also the providers of BUSD, so the Binance stablecoin, for a long time. I'm not entirely sure what happened. I think that due to regulation issues, they had to stop minting BUSD, and now the BUSD token is provided by someone else. Not sure if it's Binance directly. But yeah, I mean, I think that is a very interesting project. I didn't know that they were selling the infrastructure to other enterprises, but it does make a lot of sense. So wondering if this is a bit of a threat to the likes of Mantra.
I guess the difference between Pax Gold and Mantra is maybe Paxos has the larger project that is RWA assets on the blockchain, but also the Pax Gold token is the one that's tied to gold, whereas Mantra is more of a general token that's based on the ecosystem, that's based on the blockchain technology. So if you want to invest in gold, then Pax Gold is one of the ways to do it. But if you want to invest in RWA as in general, then maybe Mantra is the better bet. It's interesting to see that the Pax Gold ecosystem is backed by Brinks, or at least they work with Brinks, who are the same backers as Courtyards.io, who provides Pokemon cards and other collectibles as tokenized NFTs. So Brinks are obviously making a big play in the blockchain space, also backed by Kraken, which obviously big blockchain exchange. So any more thoughts on Pax Gold, or should we move to a decision?
Yeah, I'd say let's move to a decision, and I can jump in right away. In terms of holding token, I would go with Pax Gold. Very basic play. Essentially, just follows the price of gold, and the price of gold, yes, moves slowly, but since we're holding and we're not worrying about when to sell, I think that this is a fantastic play for a holding token that regardless of what happens, it will go up and down, but overall and over a long period of time, it will always go up. So I really like this token. I completely forgot about it, and I did a lot of research on this back in the day when I first entered the token world. Not necessarily just the crypto space, but buying tokens and stuff. It was one of the first tokens that I went to buy. So I sold it later on, but not necessarily because I wanted to dump it. Just I needed the cash. So Pax Gold is my hold token. To flip, I would go with Celestia, essentially because it's got a previous all-time high of about $20. Right now it's 10, so that gives a certain level of an argument that could be strong enough based on the volume that it could do at least a 2x in the next few weeks or months. So very interesting flip for a token. And then Mantra, I would dump it, and reason being is because it's had a very incredible growth. It looks like it's in new all-time highs, but same as has happened with Bitcoin, reached a new all-time high and has been dropping ever since, and it's been a bit volatile. So I would dump this token if I had it in my wallet, because it's a good time to get some gains. Nothing against Mantra, it looks like a very interesting project. I love RWA focused infrastructure, so great. By the looks of it, it's a great technology, but I would dump the token at this stage. So hold Pax Gold, flip Celestia, and dump Mantra. How about you?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of those points. I think we've got a really strong set of tokens this week, so it's a difficult decision. More so than usual, because a lot of the time there's a clear bad egg in the batch. But this time, I'd say I agree with the dump on Mantra, because we're both bullish on RWAs, but do they need their own blockchain? I don't know. I'd have to understand a bit more about what's the use case, and why do we need to trade them on Mantra as opposed to just continuing to use other blockchains. So that's my dump. But I would actually hold Celestia, because I think that this is going to be more of a long-term infrastructure system. They're competing with Ethereum, but they've got other avenues into the market, like bridging and data availability, that kind of thing. I think this is a strong infrastructure play. So I think that we'll see more of Celestia in the future. It's still quite a relatively new project, but I think it's sticking around. And then I would flip Pax Gold, because yes, there's long-term value in gold, but right now we're seeing a spike because of political events, or rather war potentially in the Middle East, and or more war, I should say, and that might mean that the price goes up, unfortunately. So it's not a pleasant play, but it's potentially something that might get you short-term gains. I don't know. Not financial advice, and fingers crossed it goes down because everything gets better. But yeah, so agree with the dump, but the flip and the hold, I would have the other way around.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see in a few weeks. Well,
Yeah.
what happens with us? Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It was actually really interesting. Loads that I've learned, and more next week.
Yeah, join us next week for another set of three. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in a while.
Yeah. Crocodile.